Can I ask you guys something that might sting just a little bit? What actually is most important to you? Like really, not what your parents think, not what Instagram thinks. Like what do you value most? I heard an amazing quote at church on Sunday. It was that we do not have a time problem. We have a priority problem. And that just made me pause. It made me just like double tap on my own heart and ask that question of, what am I prioritizing in my day-to-day routine? Because that ends up shaping the rest of not only my life, my child's life, but my family's life. And before we dive into this video or these ideas that I want to share, I just want to have a little quick disclaimer and say, look, this is not at all an anti-career video. It's a heart check video. I want to talk about how what you prioritize shapes your whole life, your home, your rhythms, your stress, your peace, and your baby's emotional foundation. Because I grew up in Sydney. I grew up and worked in the city. I was climbing the corporate ladder, and I was surrounded by friends and family who thought that success equaled a big house, a big paycheck, a new car, the next new bright shiny gadget. And I really thought that that was normal. I thought that that's what success looked like. I thought that's what we should be, centering our compass and focusing on. That's what we should be achieving, and that's what we should be directing our mind and our heart toward, is the more, the bigger, the better, the brighter. And I thought it was normal because that's what everyone else was doing. And so when I finished school, I went to university and I got a really good degree, and I was setting up my future for promotions, climbing the ladder, and I was setting my foundations for what I thought success was and what it looked like. And all of that sort of changed when I met my now husband, because he came from Brazil. He's Brazilian. And let me just say, I'm constantly being humbled and my eyes opened whenever he shares stories about his childhood, the streets he grew up on, and the friends he had, and just the lifestyle, the schooling. Everything is just, it sounds so radically different. It's very humbling as well. The lifestyle they had, it wasn't grand, but it was full of a lot of love. And when I met him, he was living in a tiny cabin in a caravan park. I'm not joking or exaggerating. This was a tiny, falling apart cabin. And it had one room. It had one lounge room and one very small kitchen that was the size of a chopping board. The toilet and shower situation could only fit like one person in the bathroom. Only one person could stand there if they probably inhaled. It was so small, and the sinks were leaking, and there were mice everywhere, and it felt like it was a little dollhouse almost. It was so tiny and it was also just so like falling apart. It was just so old, and it was a character, that cabin. But the crazy thing is that despite how he was living a very simple, humble life when I met him, he had a van that broke down every time we tried to drive it. And he had work which paid the bills, but we spent our days together just like very relaxed, very unhurried. We would go to farmers markets, we'd go to the beach, we'd just spend time together. We'd spend a lot of time cooking as well in the kitchen, in the tiny kitchen, but we would just have so much fun together. And there was this one moment when I remember we had finished having lunch. I was washing up and there was this tiny little window that looked out outside, and my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, was just like watering some of the plants, and I was just blissfully away washing the dishes and watching him. And there was just this feeling that just sunk deep into my soul of going, this is it. Like, this is what success looks like. And I feel so at ease. I feel so content. I feel so at peace. And I remember thinking in that moment, you know what, if nothing changes, if I spend the rest of my life in this cabin, if I move in with my husband and we live forever in this teeny tiny cabin, you know what? I'll be okay with that, because I know I'll be happy, because I know we don't need much, because I feel like we have everything right here and right now. And that moment just really changed my mindset and my heart posture, because I realized success doesn't equal square meters. It looks like rest over rushing. It looks like connection over career. It looks like contentment over consumerism. And I can't help but thinking about what Paul writes, where he says that I have learned to be content with the little. And that's what it was like, those early dating days in that cabin. And whilst that was 2.5 years ago now, a lot has changed since then. We've now welcomed our beautiful son into the world. We've moved, and we're in a bigger house, and we're actually in quite a sort of like rich-ish area. And the tension now is to fall back into that trap of consumerism, where I can see people around me with bigger houses, with, you know, very fancy working cars. Mind you, we are literally driving my grandma's car. That is our current car situation. And it's hard not to compare, and it's hard not to want more. And when you're surrounded by wealth, and you know, there's that social pressure, and there's that temptation to chase them more. And I was reading 1 Timothy 6, verse 6 to 8, and it said, "But godliness with contentment is great gain. If we have food and clothing, we will be content with that." And so I just have been checking my heart, and I wanted to ask you guys and bring the challenge to you mums as well, in the busyness and the chaos that is motherhood, just to take a moment to pause and to stop and say, what are you idolizing right now? What has become maybe your God? Is your identity tied to your job title? Are you living beyond your means so much that it forces you away from your kids maybe? Are you hustling for status? Because in Matthew 6:21, it says, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." And in Matthew 6, verse 24, it says, "You cannot serve both God and money." And hear me now, I'm not saying that money is bad or it's wrong or anything like that, but now that I've become a mum, another shift has changed in my heart, where I can now see that raising my son is the most important assignment I have been given, beyond any job success, title, career, fame. That motherhood right now is the blessing and calling and assignment that has been graciously entrusted to me, and I can't take that lightly at all. What I know with motherhood is that those early years with your baby are so foundational for secure attachment, emotional regulation, and just like their lifelong mental health. Those first 3 years, mum, you have to be present with your baby, not just emotionally present and giving some quality time when you do, but your physical presence has to be felt from your baby. And yet so many mums don't have the choice to stay home with their babies. The rate of daycare is just going up so much, because women are racing back to work because, you know, they've got bills to pay. Their mortgage is too heavy. The house they bought is too big, and they can't survive on a single income. Lifestyle expenses creep in, and there's a real pressure to maintain a certain image. And I know some mums go back as well, not just for the paycheck, but some mums go back because of the status. You know, look at me, I am successful. Look at me, I can be a boss mom. I can sort of do it all. I can be climbing the ladder and looking after my babies, and I'm someone at work. I'm a head teacher, I'm an executive, or I'm a CEO. Look at me and my status, and people can derive a sense of success and notoriety and fame through their job title, through their status. But you know, babies don't really care about your status. They need you, your face, your voice, your smell, your presence. And so my gentle challenge to you all is, what if you downsized? What if you sold that car? What if you simplified? What if you did a at-home workout instead of paying for that gym membership? What if you lived under your means so you could live in the calling that God has given you? Because in Isaiah 40 verse 11 it says, He gently leads those that have young. God sees the season you're in, and you're not falling behind. Your career will be there, but often your kids can't be on pause. They grow up and you can't get those years back. In Proverbs 15 verse 16 it says, better is a little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble with it. So my invitation is for you mums to pause and honestly do this. Write these questions down, meditate on them in your heart, pray about them. But I just want to encourage you all to ask yourself what truly matters to me in this season. What will matter in 10 years' time? Ask yourself if you're building a home of peace or a life of pressure. Will my kids remember a mum who was with them, or a mum who was always rushing and anxious? What story do I want my family to tell about these early years? In Psalm 90 verse 12 it says, teach us to number our days so that we may gain a heart of wisdom. So, mamas, my reminder to you is success in God's kingdom looks nothing like success in the world. Don't get sucked in this consumerist culture of buying more so that you have bigger bills to pay, and then you need to go back to work only to earn more money, to spend that money on the next and the latest and the greatest. The world says more, faster, bigger, brighter, but Jesus says slow down, simplify, and love the people in front of you. Mamas, your babies need you, not a bigger house. And you'll never regret choosing presence over pressure. So mamas, I'll leave you with that. If this video blessed you, please give it a like. Send a little hello in the comment section below. I love reading all of your comments. I reply to them all. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe, because I upload new videos every single week. And my last request is that you just send this video to a friend that you think it might bless. So don't forget to let us love one another. And I'll be seeing you in my next video. Until then, goodbye.